1 month, one laptop. Is it possible for a single laptop to change everything that we knew about value and performance? This is the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air, and here's my review after using this laptop daily for a month. Now, before going into this long-term review, just so you know that the variant that I have is the base model, as I really wanted to know whether or not that this baseline model is enough for everyday use, whether or not you're a creator like me or someone who just needs a portable laptop without sacrificing performance and of course the battery life. Now, let's be frank, when it comes to the build quality, MacBook Air, regardless of its size, has come a long way when it comes to the design. It has become more ergonomic, feels more durable and even more beautiful. Now, to maintain the minimalist design, the ports are not as extensive as the Pro variant, of course. Additionally, there is the MagSafe charging port if you require more than a single USB-C connection, or if you need more, you can always get one of these. Now, thinking back about WWDC just 2 months ago, was I the only one wondering about the larger screen, thinking, it's gonna be way heavier now, eh? But holy moly, this was light as a feather. It is only at 11.5 mm thin, and holding this felt like I was grasping the future. Now, the real best moment, my travels, especially for the past 2 months. Now, firstly, it was the perfect laptop because this laptop is not too small as the 13-inch or ginormous as the 16-inch laptop, and the significantly bigger trackpad was also a very welcoming upgrade, and I was editing videos on the plane like a boss. Even with Mr. I'll recline my seat all the way at the back in front of me, decided to test my patience. Now, speaking of editing videos, before I go into the performance, let's talk about the amazing display and the speakers next. Now, the display is a huge upgrade with a higher resolution, more true to life colors and deeper contrast compared to the 13-inch, probably because of its larger screen too. Now, while some might kick a fuss about it having just a 60Hz display, I find that this display plenty responsive even for my video editing work, because you don't need a bombastic 120Hz or even a 240Hz display unless you're planning to play some very competitive gaming. But for the everyday Joe or Jane and someone who likes to get work done on the go, you are definitely not going to be missing out on the so-called low refresh rate or the 60Hz screen. Now, this 15-inch display size also provides with the additional pixels and visual real estate, which is definitely important for creative work. And the idea of having a keynote presentations on one side and the browser on the other, nicely arranged in a single screen, was surely a great experience where you could really take advantage of the split view over here. Then it does support an external display up to a massive 6K resolution at 60Hz, similar to the 13-inch variant. But because of the screen is already big, I didn't find myself plugging into the Apple Studio display since it had a perfect color accuracy of the P3 white color gamut and at 500 nits of brightness. Then, if there's really one major surprise that really caught me off guard, is the speakers performance, because it's amazing how Apple has gone all ninja to hide away all the 6 speakers and still produce some great speakers on this laptop. Now, while the 4 speakers on the 13-inch MacBook Air was a great setup for a device so small, the audio on this 15-inch M2 MacBook Air is loud, crisp and quite detailed and avoids distortion altogether and has Dolby Atmos support as well. Now, this slightly larger body has allowed Apple to add in more force cancellation woofers, which allow for a deeper bass and warmer tones in this overall 6-speaker setup. Now, why speakers are important on the laptop, you may ask, because not everyone likes to wear headphones or AirPods when they're on their laptop. Now, going into the performance of the M2 MacBook Air. This M2 MacBook Air is built to perform unlike the Intel MacBook Air previously. But if you're wondering, why? Why, Adam? Why is Apple's M1 and the M2 chip different than other Intel laptops? Well, let me explain. So, like the M1, Apple's M2 processor ditches a separate RAM for something they call the unified memory. Now, this improves performance significantly by reducing the amount of times data is copied between the CPU, the GPU and the NPU. So it's like you, your boss and your colleague is all working on the same exact project together, which means that work will be done more efficiently. Now, on the M2 MacBook Air, boot and loading times for apps is about 2 times faster on the M2. Intense work like editing video is also quicker on the M2 MacBook Air. In fact, even the 13-inch MacBook Air could breeze through workloads that the Intel version struggle with. It also can handle video editing at 4K resolution without breaking a sweat. But the 15-inch version ups the ante even more with 10 GPU cores over the 13-inch 8 GPU cores. And this is ultra important if you're someone who likes to deal with a lot of spreadsheets and documents where you'll be running through them like Speedy Gonzales. Even more so with the added power of the 15-inch MacBook Air. Now, I also have been playing around with this app called Photomator, which has been my go-to app for photo editing, with features like the object erasing with the repair tool, and replace colors was really seamless in the overall image processing since it uses machine learning. And although I don't game much, but as announced in WWDC this year, my favorite game, Stray, will also be coming soon to the Mac, so I can't wait for that. Among everything, I've been using this 15-inch M2 MacBook Air mainly to edit videos for my short-form content on Instagram Reels, TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And since this base model is at 256GB of storage, I just edit off my external hard disk and everything runs smoothly even with my 6K high-resolution footages on this vertical format. But of course, if you're editing 4K video content, you will breeze through the timeline like butter, even with the additional plugins and callouts being used in the timeline as well. And do remember that this model has no fan, so it is plenty quiet. And with the amazing battery life on this laptop meant that I could create video after video without having any battery anxiety, which brings me to my next topic, which is battery life. And here's where the new MacBooks often outclass their competition, and the M2 MacBook Air is no different. Now, Apple did mention that these laptops can achieve up to 18 hours of battery life, a statement that I find very credible because I typically get about 15 hours of battery life on a single charge, even with heavy workloads on a day. Then on the days where I'm not editing videos and just doing some regular spreadsheet or checking some emails or so, I found that the laptop was delivering about 16.5 hours or so. And while that is already mind-blowing, the M2 MacBook Air also comes with the low power mode, which underpowers the powerful M2 processor for a longer battery life. Now in this mode, you can typically squeeze in about 2 to 3 hours more on a single charge. Alright, let's talk about value. When you say Mac, most people probably imagine a fancy price tag, not exactly a bang for your buck. But now, if you really think about it, this is a laptop that can deliver up to 18 hours of battery life, able to edit 4K videos without breaking a sweat, and most importantly, weighs less than 2 kgs. And these specs would typically place within a 6,500 ringgit to an 8,000 ringgit range. I'll put the USD conversion over here for similar models like the Acer Swift X14 and the ROG Flow as well. However, the previous 13-inch M2 MacBook Air is priced at 5,199 ringgit for the base model, which can do all of this and have a beautiful finish. But for this case, with a larger display and more performance, you can get it for a 1,000 ringgit top-up at 6,199 ringgit, which based on my test was very well the upgrade. So in conclusion, the Apple M2 MacBook Air might turn out to be their best lineups of MacBook yet, with the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air leading the pack to join the golden child of laptops category with the best balance of screen size, performance and portability. So it's got everything that you want in a laptop and a complete package at the right price point.